What's up, Geeksters? It's me, Omar from GeeksterLabs.com, and today's video is sponsored by Cell Cashier. If you guys want to check them out, look at the link in the description. So obviously today was Apple's really big keynote, and they announced a bunch of new things and new products. So I just want to give you guys a really quick rundown of what some of those items were, and just give you my personal thoughts on what I think about some of the things that they announced. So let's get right into it. So first thing on the docket was the Apple Watch. Now the Apple Watch didn't really have too many updates. The biggest updates about it was they do offer two new colors now. So they have the rose gold and the yellow gold versions of this. But the interesting thing is that they decided to place these different color variations in just the sport lineup. They're available in their less expensive aluminum Apple Watch Sport. So I guess for some people that wanted to get the gold watch that didn't want to spend thousands of dollars to get the actual gold watch, well, now they're able to do that by purchasing it for the Sport edition. They also announced too that some additional leather bands. They have some nice designer styled leather bands that you can get for the watch. And so besides that, the only other thing that they really talked about when it came to Apple Watch was the Apple Watch OS, which is going to be available now on September 15th. So that's something cool to look forward to. We know that one of the things that they're offering with the new Watch OS is native apps. So apps will actually run directly on the watch and not have to connect so much to the iPhone in order to run, so they'll be a little bit faster. So that's pretty much the only news that they have for the Apple Watch. All right, the next announcement was for the iPad Pro. Now the iPad Pro is going to be a larger display. It's 12.9 inches. And so to give you a better idea of that, the way they talked about it is that basically if you take an iPad Air and take the height of the iPad Air, turn that on its side, that's now the width of the new iPad Pro. So it's a lot larger, and they show the comparison on screen. It looks pretty big, guys, and I have to say, one of the nice things about the iPad Air is that it's about the size of a book, so it's easy to carry around. This is a slightly larger iPad, so I'm not quite sure how easy it is going to be carrying around. I mean, it's really hard to tell for sure until you get it right in front of you. Maybe it's about the size of like a laptop and it won't be too odd, but it just seems really big. So they say it has 5.6 million pixels or been smashed into the screen. Obviously, the new iPad Pro is going to have a better processor, so it does feature the A9X 64-bit chip, which just basically means faster processing, faster graphics. It still features a 10-hour battery life. It is 1.57 pounds, so it's a little over a pound and a half. And it's still pretty thin at 6.9 millimeters thin, so it's about the same size or thickness that I believe that they demonstrated with the original iPad. It definitely looks like multitasking is going to be a nice experience on this iPad because it's so wide. They gave a couple demonstrations of how you can do two applications side by side, which was pretty cool. Keep in mind that the 32 gigabyte version of this is going to retail for $800. If you want 128 gigs, that's $950. And if you want to have Wi-Fi plus cellular, just for the 128 gig, that's $1,080. So you're basically paying pretty close to the price of a MacBook Air for a giant touchscreen iPad. I don't know about that, guys. I'm still kind of on the fence on how that is, because I mean, they're touting it as a professional product that I guess is basically something that may replace your laptop, but I just don't know how I feel about that. The one thing they did show that was kind of cool though is the smart keyboard, which I mean, I know every single person on Twitter immediately said, oh, so it's basically a Microsoft Surface keyboard. And that's basically what it looks like. One of the cool things that they mentioned, though, that's interesting about this product, for one, it's only compatible with the iPad Pro. And it also uses a new connection port that they have there. I believe they call it their Smart Connector. And so with the Smart Connector, it passes power and data to other devices. So in this case, to the Smart Keyboard. It looks like it's very kind of a nice setup to where it's almost acting as like a laptop. Okay, so you have your keyboard, so you don't have to be touching the screen. Although the screen's much bigger now, so it'll be a little bit easier to type on it. But the keyboard retails for $150. So if you're paying $800 for a 32 gig iPad Pro, tack on another $150 for a keyboard. That's kind of crazy. So I think it'll be interesting to see how people are going to be using this product, and I'm still not quite sold on this being something that a lot of people are going to be buying. So I don't know. It was interesting to see that they're stepping up their game a little bit. Besides the fact that it's larger, faster processing, things like that, there's nothing different about it per se. It's basically a large iPad. So I don't know, we'll have to see. The one cool thing that I was really excited when they mentioned that no one had even really talked about, really not, is the Apple Pencil. So the Apple Pencil, it's a $99. Basically, it's a stylus, okay? It looks like it's going to be really super accurate with barely any latency. And I'm a person that plays with a lot of different styluses. I'm actually going to have a lot of reviews of a few styluses from Adonit and Wacom coming to the channel very soon. But playing with those styluses, I noticed that the hardest thing about using those is, even with Bluetooth, is that there's a bit of latency. So if you move your pen very quickly across the screen, it takes a while for the line to catch up to where your pen tip is. But when seeing the different demonstrations that they use with this pen, the stylus, it looks like there's no latency whatsoever, like it's very quick. It's also pressure sensitive, which is something that other styluses have as well. But one of the cool things I had never seen in a stylus is actually, depending on the angle that you're using the pen, so like imagine if you're using like charcoal, if you use charcoal on the tip, it's going to be fine. If you turn it to its side, it's going to be a broad stroke. So with this pen, it actually will respond and it'll know how much of an angle or a tilt there is on there. So I think that's a first. I've never seen that in any other stylus, which is really cool. Also, of course, it's going to differentiate your fingertip to the actual pen tip. So when if you want to zoom and pinch and zoom, it knows you're not using a stylus. And then when you draw, it knows that you're using a stylus. And so it is pressure sensitive. You can do fine lines and thick lines. I'm guessing though, it will also feature palm rejection. So if you put your palm, which is one of the things that's annoying to use about stylus, if when you put your palm on there and start writing, it thinks that your palm is the input device and not the stylus. So this would probably correct that problem, make it a lot easier to use. So I mentioned that it does have a rechargeable 3-hour battery, and one of the interesting things though is it actually has a lightning connector on the tip of it. So you pop off the cap, so to charge up the pen, you plug it into the lightning port on the iPad Pro, which leads me to believe that this is only a device that's going to be used with the iPad Pro. They actually didn't say it specifically. And even when I checked online, it doesn't say that this is only meant for the iPad Pro. It mentions that it will work with iPad apps, but it doesn't say that it will work with other iPads. So I'm kind of interested to see. I wouldn't doubt that they would just be a strictly iPad Pro product, which kind of sucks. But it looks really cool. They gave us some really cool demos using Adobe products, like the Adobe Sketch app and things like that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this handles. And for me, like I said, the biggest difference I've noticed when they were demoing this stylus compared to other stylus I've used, specifically a Bluetooth stylus, is that there wasn't any latency between the tip and when they're drawing with it. So I look forward to kind of testing that out. I'm sure they'll have that at the Apple stores. Now it retails for 99 bucks, and that's going to be available in November. The next big thing that I was really excited to hear about was Apple TV. And so this wasn't just a regular normal refresh of the Apple TV. The big thing that they talked about was the future of TV is apps. And so, of course, everybody is consuming content on TV, whether it's Netflix, whether it's Hulu, whether it's Showtime, HBO Go, all those different types of things. They're viewing their television content on their devices through apps. They did now announce a new operating system, tvOS. So there will be applications that you can actually get access to through the Apple TV. So there's two different price ranges. There's a 32 gigabyte for $159, and there'll be a 64 gigabyte for $200. So I guess we're going back to the very first generation Apple TV that used to have onboard storage. So that's what we're going to go back to. I guess considering that you have to install applications and things like that, and maybe different types of content, I guess you'll need to have some storage in there. You can't just stream from your computer, which probably be a nicer experience. So here's some of the really cool things. They have a new remote control, which was really neat when they demonstrated it. It does have a touch sensitive surface, has an accelerometer and a gyroscope built into it also as well. The battery life is 3-month battery life, which is pretty cool. And it actually has a lightning connector, so you can easily charge it up with your other devices, your other your Apple lightning connector or anything, or for your iPhone or your iPad, things like that. And the really cool thing was Siri voice enabled. So of course there's other devices that are similar to this where you can talk into it and it will do different things. But for those of you that maybe are familiar with using Siri on your iPhone, you can kind of get specific into what you're asking. The coolest thing I saw in the demonstration that they showed is it's not just like show me all the movies with Jason Bateman. Okay, it shows you all those different movies. The cool thing was he actually did a search, was find me the episode of Modern Family where it featured Edward Norton, guest appearance by Edward Norton, and actually found that episode of Modern Family and played it right there in front of you. So those kind of searches are really interesting. The other cool thing I noticed too is that they mentioned whenever you're searching for something, it will actually tell you where that is available. So this is something I've always thought was a pain in the butt. When I'm trying to rent a movie, I never know for sure where that movie might be available. Maybe it's on Hulu, maybe it's on Netflix, maybe it's on HBO Go, maybe it's on Showtime. Now when I ask to search for a movie, it'll actually tell you, oh, this content is available on this service. So that was kind of cool. I thought that was really interesting, the way that they've kind of integrated the search across all applications. And it really shows you that how applications is kind of the forefront of what they're really trying to do with the Apple TV. So that was really neat. The other thing that they mentioned too is the App Store. So not only will the App Store be used for video content, for videos and things, but games. So, and while watching the keynote, I really noticed that this is basically a gaming system. It's basically like a Wii, okay? Because you're using a remote control, has a built-in gyroscope, has a accelerometer inside. So they were demoing games. They were kind of like Guitar Hero style games where you're basically using the controller like a Wii controller. The really cool thing is that when they showed Crossy Road, which is one of my favorite apps, I have Words with Friends and Crossy Road. Those are the only games I have on my phone. So I love Crossy Road. And they demonstrated a new multiplayer Crossy Road, which looks really fun, where you can actually play, two people can play it together on the Apple TV. through this game, so using the remote control. So it's really interesting to see how they're kind of sneaking their way in there and offering different games. I don't think this is going to take over the gaming system type of thing where people are going to start using the Apple TV as opposed to the other game systems. But the fact that they're offering some of these really cool, kind of fun little graphically intense type of games, it's pretty cool. They showed a cool graphically, like a real cool driving game that they had there as well. So different things like that. It looked kind of interesting. I'm really looking forward to testing that out and really checking out to see how that's going to work. There's also going to be other apps available too as well. They talked about Zillow, Airbnb, Guilt, which is like a shopping app. So those are the types of things. I don't know how well those will be used. I can't really see myself sitting down and playing and searching through apps. I'd probably just rather have my iPad in front of me just going through the web browser. But it is something that is available. So of course the developers out there that create games using the SDK for the new tvOS, they're going to be the ones that come up with something that's really cool to be like, oh wow, that is a cool thing to have on your TV. Because it seems like these are just apps based off of websites to display the information to you easily on an Apple TV, which is like, okay, whatever, that's kind of interesting. It also gives you access to all the music, so your music library, and also Apple Music as well, their streaming service. So that's going to be available later in October. So let's get into the big daddy of them all, which is the iPhone 6s and 6 Plus. And when I say big daddy, I don't mean like the, you know, the big deal of the show. It was really not much. Not much was a surprise when it came to the iPhone 6s and the 6s Plus. So some of the things they mentioned really quickly, it has a new denser aluminum is what they're using for it to defend against bendgate. They didn't say that, but you know that's what they were thinking. It's priced exactly the same as all the previous models. There is not going to be a 32 gigabyte version bumped to get rid of the 16 gig and just bump it up to 32. I was really hoping that they would finally get rid of 16 and give you 32 as the base model. They did not do that. There's also a new rose gold color, and the other thing that they talked about a lot was 3D touch, which basically is force touch. Like, I'm not sure why they're calling it 3D touch now. It's basically pressure sensitive to where if you put more force into the screen, it behaves a little differently, just like it does on the Apple Watch, but they call it 3D touch. So basically it says faster viewing it's faster to view content like your emails. You don't have to actually open the application. You can push on a little bit harder and it'll pop up and give you a sneak peek. They call it a peek and pop type of thing. So if you press hard, it'll actually open the application. And it does this for different things, whether it's on the home screen, if you tap on an icon and press it slightly hard, it'll give you additional options to pick from, or you can press it really hard and it'll open up the application. I don't know, it seems kind of gimmicky. I'm not sure if this new input type of thing is going to be a big deal when using the iPhone. If anything, it may make it more confusing because you might forget, oh, that's right, I can also 3D touch this item, and that will give me some more options. I don't know how that's going to work out. So obviously it's going to have a faster processor, their iPhone 6s. It's going to have the A9 chip, better graphics, faster processing. They mentioned LTE Advanced, which I guess is twice as fast with LTE. I'm not sure which carriers are going to be offering that. It also mentions how it's going to allow for up to 866 megabytes per second Wi-Fi in case you happen to be in a place that broadcasts Wi-Fi that quickly. I don't know of any place like that. Maybe you guys do. So let me know in the comments if you do get that kind of speed when it comes to Wi-Fi. They also mentioned a new Touch ID sensor, which is going to be twice as fast, which is pretty fast as it is, but I guess they've improved upon that. The other big thing is the camera. So we now have a 12 megapixel camera, eyesight camera on the back, which they said has 50 times more pixels. We also finally have 4K video on the iPhone, which will be kind of cool to play around with. The front camera is now 5 megapixel camera for the FaceTime camera, and they finally started using the screen as a flash, which I'm not sure why they never did that to begin with. I think there's actually apps that actually allow you to, it flashes the screen while it's facing you to give you some extra flash. Now it's going to be built into it, so it's going to do that automatically when you are taking pictures at night, at that nightclub, taking nice selfies. It will use the actual screen of the phone to create a nice flash. The other cool thing that they made a big deal about was live photos, which I think is completely stupid and dumb. Basically, live photos is you can have a setting where you can click that setting, and all of the pictures you take, it will record like 2 seconds before and after you snap that image. So when you have a picture, you will use the 3D touch, force touch on the picture. It'll actually play the video of like right before you took the picture. I don't understand this. Like, why would you do that? If I wanted to take video of a scene or something, I would just take video of the scene. I'm imagining that these images, that these live photos are actually going to take more space because it's recording more data instead of just a regular snapshot. I'm assuming you won't be able to share these images because you have to have the interface on the iPhone, maybe with other iPhone users, but you have to have the interface to be able to 3D touch it in order to play it. The clip. I just don't understand. They made a really big deal about this. I mean, the other thing too is you have to have your finger on top of the image to do this, so you're going to be covering part of your picture in order to engage the live photo thing. It's not something you can just like tap on and play. I don't know. That was just a weird thing to me. They made a really big deal about it. I guess it's something fun to play with, but I don't think it's anything worth really the amount of time they spent on discussing and talking about it. So anyways, besides that, there's also going to be a new app for Android switchers that come over to iOS. It'll allow them to switch. Probably very similar to Android's app that they have, which is for switching from iOS to Android. So that's kind of like their jab at Android for that. They're also talking about a new upgrade program, which is basically you pay $30 to $40, and depending on the model of phone that you have, for 24 months, you'll pay that monthly fee, and you basically will be able to get a new iPhone every year. AT&T is starting to offer this same type of installment plan. Anyways, I don't know why that's the case with AT&T, but it is something that Apple's offering. You may be able to get a better deal doing it through Apple than your carrier, so you may want to check on that when that's available. So the next iPhone is going to be available for pre-order on September 12th, and then it's actually going to be available to pick up on September 25th, which is odd because usually Friday, the week after they announce it, the Friday's when they use it for sale. Well, this is actually 2 Fridays after, so 2 weeks back. So overall, guys, what did you guys like about the Keynote address? For me, I think the Apple TV and the Apple Pencil are probably the coolest things I liked about the Keynote, because those are things I weren't really expecting at all. Some of the things they talked about. The iPhone was basically the iPhone S. Everyone knows by now that the S version is going to be the same exact body with a couple unique tweaks to it. So for me, the iPhone, the biggest deal was the camera. 3D touch, maybe that's a cool thing. That's pretty much the biggest deals with the new iPhone 6S and 6S Plus. So what did you guys think about the Keynote? What were your favorite parts about it? Put it down in the comments below. I read each and every comment in all of my videos, and if you guys have any questions for me, I'll do my best to answer those as quickly as possible. Just want to give another shout out to sellcashier.com and thank them for sponsoring this video. If you guys want to get cash for your used iPhone, check out their website. It's really easy, fast, and secure. You just go on their site, you get a quote, you ship your phone, and then you get paid. It's pretty much that simple. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to stay up to date with all of my content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.